I'm Coach Miller, and welcome to All Marine Fighter. Today, I want to talk about the differences between the level of fighters. A lot of times when we watch a fight, we could say, oh, well, this fighter's better than this fighter. But if you really think about it, do you really know the reason why? We're going to briefly analyze the different levels, not only for amateur competition, but also for pro level competition. And while this list and how many levels are in between can be kind of subjective, still, the general information is pretty spot on. And you're going to notice next time you watch your favorite fighter, or two really good fighters go at it, or maybe one substandard fighter and a really good fighter, you're going to be able to pick the differences and see what I'm talking about. And you'll look at boxing and the matchups a whole lot differently. Let's first look at the amateur level of competition and the different levels in between. Now, I fought extensively in the amateurs, and I had my growth curve just like anybody else. And you often could see fighters who advance to different levels of competition. You would think like, wow, look at those guys. Those guys are so good. But then they get to the competition, they would get beat or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, maybe next time. And then the same thing repeats, and they only get to a certain level or plateau of competition, and the same thing happens again. So why is that? The different levels of competition in the amateurs. First, you have, say, the club show level of fighter, where fighters can be brand new or they've been fighting for a little while, but they're maybe not technically sound. Maybe they have some things they have to work on. Like I said, maybe they're new, or maybe they just don't dedicate that much time to their craft. But they're there to put on a show there for your individual boxing club's show that they're putting on. Then you have the state level fighter. The state level fighter is those who goes to the state competitions. Let me just use the Golden Gloves as an example. Every state will have its Golden Gloves competition, and you're going to have a 3 days, 3 fights. And if you keep winning, you get to the finals, obviously, you become the state Golden Glove champion. I personally hold 3 state Golden Glove champions. Let's say you move on from there. Then you go to regionals. That's the next level of boxing. Win state, you go to regionals. 3 days, 3 fights. You can go through and hopefully make it to the finals. From there, you're going to get a nationals invitation for the national Golden Gloves. The national level of competition, you're going to have 5 days, 5 fights. And this is a very stressful competition. At the national level, 5 days, 5 fights back to back, it'll take a toll on your body. So it's really going to show how much endurance you have, how much time and effort you put into training at the gym. And let's just say you make it the first 3 days. By the 4th and 5th day, you're exhausted. You're sore from the previous day's fights. Let's just say you fought some tough competition as you're moving up. Well, you're going to have some bruises and getting battered a little bit on your body, so you're going to be sore. So really, by the time you get to the 4th or even 5th day, you're exhausted, and it's really going to test you mentally. Now, just a quick recap. Remember, we've got club show, we've got state, we've got regional, then we have nationals. The final level would be what I would call the top percentage of the national level fighters. Those are the guys who are always in the semifinals, like between 1st and 3rd place. And a lot of times you can have multiple good fighters in the same weight class division, and sometimes they'll gain an edge over each other depending upon the national competition that they're in. But what you'll also notice is that you'll generally see the same fighters at the same national competitions facing off each other at the latter end of the bracket. Now, this isn't always absolute, of course, but you'll see that if you keep track of the rankings, because these fighters stand out. Now, before I tell you the differences between, let me quickly go over the pro level competition, because you're going to see similarities as to why different fighters vary at different levels between both amateur and pro level. At the professional level, you're going to have a kind of a similarity between the club show level fighters of the amateurs and what we call the tin cans of the professionals. Really, to become a professional fighter, it only takes $50 or $100 to get your professional boxing license. doesn't mean you're actually any good. It's just you have a license to be able to fight for the given state that you're in. So a lot of times you can have guys who are what we call the tin can fighters, where they may have 5 wins and 30 losses. Or I knew some guys that had like 2 wins and like 50 losses. Me personally, I couldn't do that. If I had 50 losses to my name, I just wouldn't be boxing anymore. That's terrible. But hey, to each his own, okay? I'm very much into competition. The next pro level up would be your journeyman level fighters. Guys that have a good chunk of wins, but they also have several losses too. I had one very good professional boxing coach tell me this one time that helped me understand the difference when I was a young fighter. He said that in the amateurs, you can have multiple losses and it doesn't matter as long as you win more than you lose. But in the professional ranks, every loss is a nail in the coffin. And if you lose early in your career, that can set you back from even getting to the championship level. And that's a huge bridge to cross. So every loss sets you back significantly and your marketability as a fighter. So you can have guys who say have 20 wins, but 5 losses. Those are going to be your journeyman level fighters, generally speaking, okay? Next are who I call your gatekeeper fighters in the pro level. The gatekeepers are guys who have competed at the championship level, but just haven't crossed into getting an actual belt yet. They're always just short. Always just short. Or maybe even got a belt and then they lost it. They weren't able to defend it. And then they just had a hard time ever getting another chance to really capture one of the 4 sanctioning bodies' belts. These guys can have records like, say, 30 wins, and maybe they'll have like 4 losses or even 5 losses, but their percentage of wins is obviously going to be much greater. You're going to see that they're chosen as what's called the gatekeepers for young fighters to get to the championship level to be able to capture that belt. So you're going to see a definite skill gap between the gatekeeper level fighters and the journeyman level fighters. And we're left with the champions. The champions are the fighters that obviously get to the championship level and they're able to defend their belts. Now, just because you defend a belt doesn't mean that you have more to learn and grow. That's where, just like in the amateur competitions, where you have the top cream of the crop of the national level fighters, the same thing is also true with the professional level fighters, where you have guys at the championship level, the top cream of the crop, where they're not only capturing multiple belts within that weight division, they're going across different weight classes and doing it and beating other champions. And not only beating other champions, but beating them thoroughly. You still also see a skill gap amongst the top cream of the crop champions and those who are champions. So what is it that separates all these different levels of fighters between the amateur level and the professional level? It's all the same answer. The same answer is, it's the little things. Believe it or not, it's the little things that separates you from everybody else. And this is a good point to prove, because if you focus on the little things, you can advance in the amateurs to the nationals and even to the Olympic level and compete amongst the other nations. You can get to the professional level, and those little things that you focus on and learn and grow will take you all the way up the professional ranks and beat even some of the better fighters. What do I mean by the little things? The little things are the movements that you make, the combinations that you throw, your reflexes, the things that you do on the small scale within a fight. So for instance, using myself as an example, I can tell you about my growth curve, my personal growth curve, as I grew in the amateur level competition. When I fought club shows and I'm learning how to box and learning how to grow in my trade of trading hands with another human being, I needed to learn from the people around me. Not only learning from the losses, but also from the wins that I would gain in the amateurs. And especially your sparring sessions. Your sparring sessions are extremely important, because I might spar somebody who gives me an all-around butt kicking, okay? But you know what? A good fighter, a smart fighter, will learn from that. Because you never know, one day you might actually fight that person. That's a true story, by the way. I have stories about that. And that actually happens in the professional ranks a whole lot more. But there were times where I would actually spar people and I would meet them in the tournament bracket of nationals or regionals. The types of little things that separate fighters are going to be the combinations that you throw. Now, don't get me wrong. You have the basics that you can check out our Bare Basics channel where I have the bare basics that you learn of boxing, right? But then I have a different channel. It's called Advanced Boxing. What do I mean? It's things to add to your toolbox to teach you to think outside the box. That's the purpose of that channel, because it's more than just the basics. You want to be able to master the basic combinations, the basic movements, and how you trade hands with your opponent. But it's the little things, the advanced things that will take you farther. Not only just moving, for instance, but how about pivoting around your opponent? The kinds of combinations, whether it's not just a 1, 2, 3, but after you finish that 3, you're stepping and you're firing jabs to follow up with it. Or let's just say, mastering your ability to throw body punches as well as throwing punches upstairs. Your ability to move around your opponent and do what others have said as swimming without getting wet, right? Your ability to slip punches. We're gonna have a video on that very soon. Your ability to focus and hone in on the little things is what's going to separate you from everybody else. In my personal journey, I would learn from other fighters. I would learn if I got my butt kicked. Or let's just say I did something very well. I would learn that, hey, I might do something well here, but that same thing may not work against a different opponent. And not only that, not only learning the combination, learning what works or doesn't work, being able to adjust while you're sparring. So being able to adjust your opponent. Maybe it's an opponent you've not sparred before, and you're just learning his movements and being able to adjust to him to be able to counter or do whatever. But not only that, what if you're at a fight and things are happening? Your ability to interpret the punches, the movements from your opponent, and being able to counter off that and adjust to him so you can gain an advantage over him or her, that's going to make a huge difference whether you're going to win and advance on. And you're going to find, let's just say you get to state level fights. You win that, you go to regionals. Now you've got multiple states at this competition and all levels of fighters, depending upon what regions that you're in, right? Different types of levels of good and bad or whatever. You might have barely scraped through state, but now you got to fight all these regionals, and you lose in the first round, the second round, or you lose in the finals, whichever. But let's say you get past that and you go to nationals. Now you've got the national top competition there. Guys who are competing to go to the Olympics. Well, those little things will either make or break you. How much time you dedicate in the gym to those little things are going to depict how far you advance. Being able to use different equipment effectively is going to separate you from the rest of the crowd. Whether it's different kinds of bags to work on your uppercuts or your body shots, or working on your reflexes with double end bags or the speed bag. I don't have a speed bag here, but working on the speed bag and your timing, working on your footwork, on the jump rope, and not just doing jump rope that, hey, I can go for a long time without messing up my rhythm, but how you can cross your feet, things that you can do. It's all a matter of testing your reflexes. You say, does really something like a jump rope really make that much of a difference? Yes, it does, actually. It really does make that much of a difference. Remember, it's the little things that separate great fighters from club show fighters that always get beat and never seem to advance. It's the little things that you focus on to advance. The little things when you're doing your bag work, the different kinds of combinations that you do, working on hitting different areas of the body, uppercuts, body shots, pivoting around the bag, which you're going to actually apply that to your opponent, pivoting around your opponent, that type of thing. All of these are going to translate to your competition when you're going against somebody who's throwing hands with you and how you respond and react. All of that comes from putting in the work in the gym. Remember, it's the little things that separate great fighters from everybody else. I hope this video has made an impact on the way that you do your training, and the way that you see yourself amongst your other competitors. And I hope that you take this and you grow and advance further than you've ever gone before. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button and be sure to subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. If you haven't subscribed yet, click that button. Go for it, please. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. And until next time, stay motivated.